Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. If this is your first time here, please be sure to click the subscribe button as well as the notifications bell so you get notified every single time I post a new video. If you are already part of the fabulous family, what's popping, what's happening, what's good? As you guys can see from the title, this is going to be the beginning of a new series I am starting on my channel. I will now kind of be discussing luxury. If you are a regular subscriber, you'll know that I have my master's in luxury brand management. So this is something I'm quite passionate about. It's just that initially I didn't really think anyone would care. But because I have an interest in it, I was like, hey, why not? Hopefully someone out there will learn from it. And over time people will actually grow to enjoy this series. Before we kind of get really deep into the series, I thought it made sense to start on some really basic things. We'll just start off like from the ground and work our way up. But for today's episodes, we're going to be discussing what is luxury, marketing in luxury, and lastly common misconceptions about luxury. So grab some wine, grab some water, some tea, some coffee, whatever your beverage of choice is, and let's get comfy and chatty. So I'm going to try my best to keep this video as short as I possibly can given the amount of information I'm trying to give you guys. Because of that, I'm going to be looking down at my notes because I don't want to get sidetracked. I don't want to kind of go off on tangents, and also I do want to give very accurate, specific information for you guys so that you will actually learn from it. So before we go anyway, just a heads up in general, I did luxury brand management, so I'm more passionate and most interested in the business side of luxury, marketing, branding. That stuff is literally right up my alley. In order to really understand luxury and all of this in general, there's a specific book that I feel like is the simplest for anyone to understand, whether you've studied this or not, and it kind of breaks down what luxury is and then kind of goes out into the marketing and strategy side of luxury brands. And this book is called The Luxury Strategy: Break the Rules of Marketing to Build Luxury Brands, and this is by two authors, Jean-Noel Capferra and Vincent Bastian. If you're looking for the easiest way to understand all of this, this book is like holy grail luxury tallow. It's the simplest way to understand most of this. So we're going to start with what is the luxury. I'm sure you've seen the word around. I know when you hear luxury, I'm sure everyone thinks Louis, Gucci, Chanel, but like, what is luxury? Like, how do you define luxury? So that's going to be our starting point. Well-known luxury theorist known as Professor Berry, he basically defined luxury as goods or services that are desirable but not necessities, but also we seek pleasure from either buying these products or using these services. And in the book I told you guys about, one of the authors, Capfer, he says that similar to many concepts in life, so it is with luxury. Everyone understands it, but nobody can agree on exactly what it means or its contours, its frontiers, or its members. And this is a very true statement because when you read more or learn more about luxury, you'll come to realize that there are many different factors that you have to consider when deciding whether a brand or product or service can be deemed luxurious. But then often you'll find that some brands will meet some things, but then others won't meet certain things. So it's kind of like, do I still define this as luxury? So it kind of gets really complex, but over time you'll kind of start to see like, okay, you have more of an idea of how to rank different things basically. Now, as confusing as deciding whether a brand can be deemed luxurious or not may be, there are still certain factors that you look at and certain, I guess, standards that have to be met in general. And these are like 5 main factors. By the way, this is obviously just like a generalization in terms of these specific factors because different people have different opinions. Even like when I was still doing my master's, our lecturer always used to let us know that this is kind of like a generalization of how the majority of people will basically view luxury brands, or what people will mainly look for when trying to decipher whether something is luxurious or not. So the first thing is a brand's heritage. Second thing is how they marketed. Third thing is the price charged for the goods or services being offered. Fourth thing is how the goods or services being offered are distributed. And lastly, how accessible these products or goods are, or in other words, the exclusivity. Now, it's quite important to note the fact that when you're looking at these factors, you do have to consider them as a whole. You can't kind of like pick one, leave the other, or okay, this standard has been met so the others don't matter. You have to look at everything all together. Okay, so something or a product or a service being offered being really expensive is not enough to call it a luxury product or service or a luxury brand. That's just not how it works. Even something being exclusive is just not how it works. Even a brand offering products that are really expensive and also still exclusive, you still can't be like, okay, bloop, it's a luxury brand. That's unfortunately just not how it works. All of the factors have to be considered all together. So this basically takes us to the second point of today's video, which is marketing in luxury, and basically a small, quick, brief look at how this works. Generally speaking, it's inevitable and it's quite noticeable that luxury brands will market themselves different from non-luxury brands. And basically the beginning of this was kind of like the mid-70s, where like a group of well-respected European brands basically decided that they're gonna go and create their own rules of marketing, and these marketing rules or this new strategy basically set themselves apart from other brands and allow them to really take their place in the luxury sector. The basis of this decision made by these European brands was them deciding to capitalize on the globalization of post-World War I into economies, basically trying to like exponentially or exceptionally grow their pool of customers. So this new strategy basically is what resulted in what's known as the 24 anti-laws of marketing. And these are like marketing rules or strategy used by luxury brands, and you'll notice immediately that these rules are so different from regular marketing and will kind of probably confuse you initially, but in the end it all makes sense. Because there's literally 24 of these, I'm just going to look down and read them all out. As I read them out, you'll probably come to realize that some of them are quite self-explanatory, and why brands use this is naturally going to make sense, but there may be one or two that's a little bit confusing. So these 24 anti-laws are: forget about positioning, luxury is not comparative, does your product have enough flaws, don't pander to your customers' wishes, keep non-enthusiasts out, don't respond to rising demand, dominate the client, make it difficult for clients to buy, protect clients from non-clients, protect the big from the small. The role of advertising is not to sell, communicate to those whom you are not targeting. The presumed price should always seem higher than the actual price. Luxury sets the price does not set luxury. Remember that. Raise your price as time goes on in order to increase demand. Keep raising the average price of the product range. Do not sell. Keep stars out of your advertising. Cultivate closeness to the arts for initiate. Do not relocate your factories. Do not hire consultants. Do not test. Do not look for consensus. Do not look after group synergies. Do not look for cost reduction. Just sell marginally on the internet. Now in luxury, it's very, very like crucial and imperative for luxury brands to understand their target audience, because this is what helps them market themselves as well as their products or services the best to those customers. The luxury market as a whole is currently experiencing a massive widening in consumers. So this means that now in 2020, more people than ever are buying luxury goods or making use of luxury services. In addition to this, the luxury market at the moment is experiencing quite a shift over the last 2 to 3 years. The largest pool of luxury consumers used to be baby boomers and obviously people between the ages of 50 and 80 at the moment. But now in 2020, the largest consumer of luxury goods are Generation Y and Z. Naturally, this means that this is going to result in luxury brands having to adapt to this change, because I mean, naturally, as much as it says don't pander to your customers' wishes, if that's your largest pool of consumers, you're going to naturally have to change the way you used to advertise your brand, your products, your services, all of that. That's all changing now. Historically, luxury goods and services were limited or kind of only meant for people who are of royalty or aristocrats, but following this globalization and obviously coming to the new millennium, this has changed massively, and this has also been the reason for the crossover of luxury into the world of celebrity like culture. So like people in music, people in Hollywood, actors, actresses, stuff like that, everything basically changed. So following this shift in the luxury audience, brands have obviously had to re-strategize how they market, with an increased focus on obviously the young consumer, because if the young consumer is going to be the largest consumer of luxury goods, you're going to want to naturally pander to them. And this has led to the increase of luxury brands making use of the internet and social media, despite the fact that this is basically against the 24 anti-laws of marketing. Now, like any old business, you do have to adapt to the change in your, target audience, whatever, because it's very much sink or swim. So if these brands don't pander to these young consumers, they're gonna sink. So although in theory we have these 24 anti-laws of marketing, naturally today luxury brands are focusing on the younger consumer because those are the people that are most likely to buy their product. And so that's why now in 2020, I'd say 2015 and 2020, we've seen more celebrities being included in luxury brand campaigns and adverts, because for younger viewers, they basically look at celebrities as the most influential. So if you see your favorite celebrity in something, basically the theory is that naturally they're going to be more drawn to these products. Now this contradicts the luxury theory because it is assumed that the more desirable something is, this is due to its exclusivity. So if you see it on too many people, you're not going to want it. But in 2020, that's actually just not the case. You'll probably start to figure out that a lot of brands are stepping away from those 24 anti-laws of marketing that I mentioned. However, there's still the big need for these luxury brands to kind of find the threshold point between the two. You don't want to do too much because you still have older consumers who still consider exclusivity like a really big part of the luxury dream. At the same time, you don't want to neglect the fact that these younger consumers obviously are looking to see a familiar face, somebody they look up to in certain products in order for them to actually want those things. I'm just looking down at my notes because I want to word something specifically, but like a really good example of like brands having to adjust to this shift is basically Coach. So the 16th anti-law is keep stars out of your advertising. Yet between like 2017 and 2020 now, we've seen them have campaigns of Yara Shahidi, Michael B. Jordan, Megan Thee Stallion. So you can see that obviously Coach has taken upon themselves to really adapt to the young consumer. And Coach is a brand that was originally associated with European women between the ages of 35 and 60. And yet now, judging by Yara Shahidi, Michael B. Jordan, Megan Thee Stallion, that's not the target audience that they were originally associated with. So yeah, naturally they're going to have to adapt because like I said, sink or swim, anyone's going to choose the swimming option rather than sinking. You'll probably also notice that as much as a lot of brands are including more celebrities in their advertising or campaigns or collaborating with other brands, so you get like Louis Vuitton and Supreme, stuff like that, you will also notice that there's more use of like limited edition because you still do have to maintain an element or an aspect of exclusivity in order to still be luxurious. It's not going to be feasible for them to make it super accessible or just completely diminish the exclusivity of these products and services just to pander to the young consumer. It still has to be a luxury good. There is so much to touch upon in terms of marketing in luxury, so I think I'm probably gonna have to do a separate episode on marketing in luxury alone, and that may even have like a couple of parts. But in general, I would like to think you can kind of grasp what I'm trying to say about marketing in luxury. So lastly, we're going to go into the misconceptions in luxury. And I just feel like naturally, like a lot of things in life, there are misconceptions about luxury. Naturally, I cannot cover them all. Different people have different misconceptions, but I'm just going to cover general ones that I personally see a lot on social media and I've heard people around me kind of mention. So I'm just going to cover just 3 or else we'll be here all day long. So there are 2 misconceptions that I see a lot. So I'm just kind of going to mention them together because they kind of link to one another anyway. These misconceptions are the fact that 1, luxury is determined solely by price, and the fact that luxury goods or services are worth the price that they've been given. This is inaccurate, it's a lie, you've been hoodwinked and bamboozled. This is not 100% the case that just because something is expensive it means it's luxurious, or the fact that luxury items are worth the price they're given. As I mentioned in the anti-laws, one of them is the price should always be higher than what it actually is. Okay, so people need to think that the worth is a lot more than what it actually is, and that's basically the basis of luxury. You're paying for the brand and the brand value perception and what they want you to think it's worth, not what the actual product is worth. In that textbook I mentioned, Capra and Bastian explain how complexity behind pricing in luxury is due to the fact that on a conceptual level, it is known that luxury is translated in a product or service through its high symbolic value. However, this symbolic value is generally hard to quantify, and it is also greatly relative, which ultimately makes it difficult to give a precise figure each time. So as I was explaining earlier, there are going to naturally be a lot of opinions. What people will deem as a really high quality, or basically the threshold or the ranking of quality differs from person to person. So it's really difficult to give something like a specific price or specific value on it. Luxury, there's basically the concept of brand value perception, and it basically works around what people perceive a brand's value to be. This allows the brand to charge more or less for their products because it's going off of what people believe their brand is worth. I'm looking down at this and I'm going to give you the case and example of Gucci. In luxury, there's a concept called introducing cheaper products or services to attract fewer wealthier customers or whatever. So this is known as day tippers, and generally when brands are releasing products or services to attract day tippers, it's kind of like a sign of weakness for the brand, right? But this is actually something that's become one of the engines driving the growth of luxury in the last 5 to 10 years. And between like 2017 and 2018, Gucci had a bit of a rebrand, if you could call it that. They were one of the first brands to take the leap in catering or pandering to the young consumer. What Gucci did is they still did introduce these, maybe not introduce, kind of like increase the marketing of these products that were less expensive. So the headbands that everybody saw, the belts, they also kind of like went out and introduced, I think it was the SS17 campaign that had a lot of the florals and the graphic tees and stuff, and this was generally attractive to a younger crowd or a younger audience. And this basically brought a lot of people to the crossover of luxury into hip hop. You have Lil Pump with Gucci Gang, Gucci Gang, Gucci Gang, Gucci Gang. And now more young people went and wanted Gucci products. Now, this basically led to the massive growth in brand value for Gucci. In 2018, Gucci had experienced a growth in brand value from 2017 to 2018 of 66%, which was the largest by a milestone that year. Like that year, Gucci literally became #1 luxury brand in terms of brand value growth. And naturally, you can see that this contradicts the concept of database not working in luxury. Following this increase in brand value for Gucci, they were now able to charge more in the next collections. I mean, generally everyone was increasing their prices because that's just what everybody does. But when your brand value increases, the margin by which you can increase the price of your products is obviously going to be higher than if your brand value does not increase. Going back to the point where you're being charged for the brand value perception, you know, it's really hard, like Capra and Bastian pointed out, to give a specific figure or number on the value of a brand or its products. So when they're charging you like £700 for a bag, don't think that bag is worth £700 in terms of cost, because often people think what you're being charged is due to the fact that it costs more to create these luxury goods. That's not the case. You're mostly paying for the brand. That's mostly where the price is coming from. Going back to the point of price not being enough to determine whether a brand or a product or service is luxurious or not, you cannot look at price as one-dimensional within luxury, because in general, price is just not enough. Like something being expensive is just not enough, as Capra pointed out. So going back to what I said in the very beginning, you generally have to look at all these aspects together. You can't look at things like independently. So often when you see people going around saying, oh, I have a luxury brand because I charge X amount, I hate to break it to you guys, it's very inaccurate. I mean, naturally, I'm not going to be the one to stop you, or nobody in these streets can stop you from saying, oh, I sell luxury dresses or luxury jewelry, or I have a luxury brand selling this, that. Nobody's going to stop you in real life. What are we going to do? But in theory, the reality is you don't have a luxury brand, or you aren't selling a luxury ABCD, because the price alone is not the determining factor, especially if you're making your product very accessible to all of us and selling, let's say, or marketing only on the internet and nowhere else. I think the last misconception would be the fact that luxury products have the best quality. Now, generally, it would be a lie. I'd be big capping if I said that, you know, the quality of a Chanel bag is the exact same as a Zara bag. That's obviously 100% not the case. But it's still important to note that not all luxury goods actually have the best quality. I'm not saying that they're not good quality, but they don't always have the best quality. I'm gonna give Louis V for example. One of the pochette bags, I think it's actually all of them, because obviously the pochette bags sometimes come with different straps, or you can get the newer one that now has like 3 pouches and stuff. But generally, think of the 750 pound pochette that comes with, like, obviously the canvas or whatever. I know 2 people who have, actually 3 people that have that bag, and all of them, like, for example, I'm going to use my friend as an example. She doesn't use that pochette bag as her everyday bag, yet after 2 years the monogram, like the canvas, is starting to fade. Mind you, this is someone who doesn't use this bag every day, not even every day. For me to say she uses it every month would even be a stretch. That's just not the case. However, in about 2 years it started to slightly smudge. And then I have another friend, she doesn't have a pochette, she actually has a Speedy bag from Louis Vuitton. Same canvas, same thing. After a while it starts to smudge or whatever. Now, generally speaking, I understand if you like use something every day when it's not meant to be used every day, it's gonna kind of like be affected in quality. But when you stop and think about the fact that if I bought a bag from M&S, even when I'm using it every day, it's not necessarily smudging. What does that tell you? I'm not saying that this is going to be the case with all of Louis Vuitton's bags. Also, even other people who may have the pochettes or the speedies, whatever, that may generally not be their experience. But I do still want to like highlight the fact that just because something is a luxurious product, it doesn't always mean it's got the best quality. That's just the main like lesson. It won't happen with every brand. Like I said, people will have different experiences even if it's with the same brand, with the same product. But I just think generally it happens a lot more than people think, that these luxury products aren't as long lasting as people would think, despite the fact that they paid a large amount of the money. And you'd be surprised that a lot of these products are made in the exact same factory where your Fashion Nova came from, sis. So you need to stop and think about that sometimes, that okay, a lot of luxury products, they will get made in some of these mass production like factories, but then get sent off to different countries for their finishing. So something may say made in Switzerland, but then it was actually made in China, and then they sent it to Switzerland for some finishings. Do you know what I mean? It's very few luxury brands that actually hand make every single product of theirs, like Hermes and their Birkins or their Kelly bags, or just Hermes in general. They handcraft everything, but not all of the other brands do the exact same thing, and they don't do that with all of their collections. So yeah, it's just a misconception that I feel like a lot of people associate something being luxurious and super expensive meaning good quality. But yeah, this video ran on a lot longer than I intended it to, and I still left a lot out, but I was really trying to make sure that I was explaining as much as I possibly could. If you guys actually are interested in this series, let me know, and maybe just let me know down below in the comment section like what other things you'd like me to speak about, and in detail or just kind of vaguely. Let me know, because there's actually so much to get into. So stay tuned for the rest of the series, I guess. Please be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe, and until the next video, guys, bye.